Life in the village moved forward, but change was in the air. The people who once whispered behind Olumide's back now greeted him with nods of respect. Some even came to him for advice, recognizing the wisdom he had gained from years of hardship. Ayo noticed how his mother and Olumide had settled into an unspoken rhythm. They shared quiet moments, working side by side, rebuilding what had been lost, not just between them, but within themselves. One afternoon, Ayo found his mother preparing a meal outside their home. He sat beside her, watching as she stirred the pot. "You seem happier," he observed. She smiled. "I am. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again." Ayo hesitated. "Do you think you and Olumide will ever?" She chuckled softly. "We cannot change the past, Ayo, but we can choose how we move forward. Olumide and I are finding our way, one step at a time." Ayo nodded, realizing that was enough for now. One morning, a young boy from the neighboring village arrived with a message. He handed Ayo a small, crumpled piece of parchment. "It's from Kunle," the boy said, before running off. Ayo hesitated before opening it. "Ayo, I do not expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I am trying. I have gone to a village where no one knows my name. I work as a simple man, earning my keep the way I should have from the beginning. Perhaps one day I will find peace. Take care of them. You are a better man than I ever was. Kunle." Ayo stared at the letter, his emotions tangled. Kunle had made many mistakes, but at least now he was trying to make amends in his own way. He folded the letter and placed it inside his tunic. Some wounds took longer to heal than others, but at least the process had begun. As the seasons changed, so did the village. The crops grew strong under Olumide's care, and with each passing day, it became more involved in the community. One evening, the elders called a gathering to acknowledge Olumide's return. It was a moment neither he nor Ayo had expected. "We cast you out once, believing the worst," one elder admitted. "But now we see the truth, and we see the man you have become." Another elder nodded. "We ask that you stay, Olumide. This village is still your home if you wish it to be." Silence settled over the gathering as everyone awaited Olumide's response. He turned to Ayo and his mother, his eyes searching theirs. Ayo gave a small nod. Olumide exhaled, then finally spoke. "I will stay." A cheer erupted among the villagers. Ayo's mother reached for Olumide's hand, squeezing it gently. For the first time, it truly felt like the past was behind them, and the future, uncertain yet full of possibility, lay ahead. As the festival celebrations faded into the night, Ayo found himself standing by the river, gazing at the reflection of the moon on the water. Life had changed so much in the past months, and yet he knew there was still more ahead. His mother approached him quietly. "You are deep in thought," she observed. Ayo sighed. "I've been thinking about my future, about what comes next." She smiled. "You have done well, Ayo. You have helped heal this family. But what about me?" he asked, turning to face her. "What do I do now?" She reached out and touched his shoulder gently. "That is for you to decide, my son. You have always been wise beyond your years. Whatever path you choose, I know you will walk it with honor." Ayo nodded, but uncertainty still weighed on him. He had spent so long unraveling the secrets of the past. What did he truly want for himself? One morning, Olumide stood before Ayo and his mother with a solemn expression. "I have made a decision," he announced. Ayo's heart tightened. "Are you leaving?" Olumide shook his head. "Number I am staying." but I do not wish to live in the past anymore. I want to build something new for myself, for us. Ayo's mother looked at him with quiet understanding. What do you mean? Olumide took a deep breath. I wish to ask the elders for a piece of land to call my own. I want to start fresh, not as the man who was once cast out, but as the man I have become. Ayo and his mother exchanged glances. This was a bold step, but it made sense. Olumide was reclaiming his life, not as a victim, but as a man with purpose. His mother reached for his hand. Whatever you choose, Olumide, you will not do it alone. Ayo nodded in agreement. For the first time, they were not just surviving the past, they were moving beyond it. As Olumide took his first steps toward building his new life, Ayo found himself thinking more about his own path. The chief's words still lingered in his mind. The village saw something in him, something he had not fully seen in himself. One evening, he sought out the chief and the elders. I am ready, he said. The chief smiled knowingly. You have already been leading Ayo. Now you must embrace it. With that, Ayo began his training, learning the ways of leadership, the wisdom of the elders, and the responsibilities that came with guiding a people. It was daunting, but also exciting. As he walked home that evening, he saw his mother and Olumide sitting together, their laughter drifting through the night air. It was a sound he had never thought he would hear again. For the first time in a long while, Ayo felt truly at peace. The weight of silence had been heavy, but in breaking it, they had all found freedom. And now, as he stepped into his own future, he carried the lessons of the past, not as a burden, but as a guiding light. As time passed, Ayo became more confident in his role as a young leader. The people of the village now looked to him for guidance, and he embraced the responsibility. One day, a drought threatened the village's crops, and the people grew anxious. Ayo gathered the elders and proposed a solution, digging new wells and working together to share resources until the rains returned. The village listened, trusting his judgment. With unity and effort, they managed to endure the harsh season. When the first rain finally fell, laughter and celebration filled the air. As Ayo watched the joy on everyone's faces, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He was exactly where he needed to be. Olumide's home was finally complete. The village gathered to celebrate, honoring his return and resilience. Ayo's mother stood beside Olumide, her eyes shining with something deeper than happiness, acceptance. As the festivities continued, she took a deep breath and turned to him. Olumide, for years, we let the past define us, but I want to look forward now. Olumide met her gaze, his voice steady. So do I. Their hands found each other, not as a promise of what once was, but as an agreement to walk forward together. Ayo smiled, knowing that while wounds did not heal overnight, love and forgiveness had the power to mend even the deepest scars. Ayo stood at the edge of the village, watching the sun rise over the land. The past had been painful, but it had led them here, to a new beginning. His mother and Olumide stood beside him, their bond no longer haunted by silence. Kunle's absence still lingered, but there was peace in knowing he was finding his own way. Ayo inhaled deeply, feeling lighter than he had in years. The weight of silence had once threatened to break them, but now it was silence that filled the air in the most beautiful way. No longer heavy, no longer burdened. Just a quiet promise of a new dawn. And with that, their story truly began.